Listen up, ragamuffins.
I just hear myself say 3 minutes.
I'll tell you one thing right now. These guys are equal opportunity ass kickers. And look who's with them.
Welcome back, gangsters, to the Complete Guide to Horror Movie podcast. Today, BP, Coop and I talk shit with Saw 3, the third installment of the franchise, released in 2006 to mixed reviews. Initially the concluding chapter of what was supposed to be a trilogy, this movie again ups the ante on the brutality of the traps, but had a significant decline in the script. Admittedly, I've only seen this movie in full twice, once back when I was 14 at the ye old Nambucca Cinema Centre with my older sister, and again just last week. It's striking to me how vastly different the viewing experiences were. So when I was 14, I was your typical outsider weirdo.
In case you haven't noticed, I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in, and I don't want to fit in. Have you ever seen me without this stupid hat on? That's weird.
So I remember going to a packed movie theater and the audience is all ah and ooh, and that shared viewing experience was so much fun. Exactly what I want from a horror movie. But rewatching the movie by myself at 29 years old, fucking hated it, eh? It felt like 4 movies crappily stitched together into one. So the first movie being Jigsaw and Dr. Lynn Denlin with surgery, the second movie being the husband going through the death maze, the third part focusing on Amanda having a nervous breakdown, putting people into unwinnable traps, and the fourth just being very weird small snippets of Kerry and Detective Matthews. Do either of you remember what the opening trap for Saw 3 was?
Yeah, I remember exactly what it is because I reckon it's a great opening. And it's Detective Matthews smashing his foot to bits to get out of the shackle on his leg because he decides not to cut his leg, so he just beats the crap out of his foot and breaks it, get his leg out.
Are you talking about the actual trap is the classroom trap?
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. No, there is it also, after that, yeah.
You've got to pull the shackles off his mouth, arm, leg.
Yeah, he's got to pull all the bits off him and then can't get the one out of his chin. Because that's when Amanda started making the unwinnable traps.
Just touching back on Saw 2, sorry, quickly. I just wanted to make a note. I love that ending where Amanda shuts the door and then it goes to the shot of John Kramer in the car and it's zooming out and you can see John Kramer chuckles ever so slightly, like smiles, and you can hear the drowning of the voice. I think that's a really good ending.
Yeah. Real faked too.
Not that he's like bloodied and battered and everything in his seat. You can see him sort of crack a smile there. It's just, it's good ending.
Because I remember when I first finished watching Saw 2, I didn't really notice the smile and I'd assumed that, John Kramer just died of being beaten to death. Basically, I thought he was dead. So then when Saw 3 came, I was like, he's still on his deathbed.
What you're saying, Justin, with like 4 sort of things going on, I felt like the movie in some scenes, it felt a bit like ER or Grey's Anatomy, especially like the operation scenes, because it sort of just kind of detracted from what was going on. And I'm like literally watching her drill his head and then like pull whatever that was out. I actually think where the blood and gore or where the torture porn actually really kicked in was the trap of Detective Kerry with the rib cage.
Yeah.
Because just the way it's shot at the end and how it's very, I have a faint feeling. Someone at the time had asked me about the film and they'd actually recognized that scene and just thought it was like over the top. And I think that's where like the turning point turned and that's where Saw was like a torture. But I think that angel trap, because it was sort of like over dramatic, it was good. I just think it was very on show with the camera with the ribs getting put out.
I didn't care for the rib trap. I felt I could definitely...
Why'd she die right away? I don't get that. And I feel like that's something that started in this movie as well, as like the thing happens and these motherfuckers just, now I'm dead. It's like, well, I mean, no. Bleed a little bit, suffer a little bit. That's the whole point of these traps. And like, let's, try and be a little bit realistic here. Maybe
she couldn't get out of that trap, could she? There was only one key, and when she did the key,
it didn't detach.
So and then they did a shot of who the mystery hooded person is, and I was sort of thinking like, I kind of know who it is.
Definitely winced when she puts her hand in the acid to get the key. Like I was like, that's if I really wish they would go more that path instead of being like, look how theatrical and like it feels like a drag race reveal with the angel wings. Like I'm like, what is this? Like it's so over the top. The
camera set up for it as well is just sort of made for the shot because she's like, you, and then just like lays back and it's like Oh my god!
I would love to make a video of just like one of those traps, just where it's this big, huge, theatrical and stupid saw trap, and then just cut to RuPaul saying like, we know you're very polished, but we don't know who you are.
Yeah.
Stop relying on that body.
Exactly.
Pearl, you've been sleepwalking. Consider tonight your wake-up call. Wake up, Pearl. Wake up.
The classroom trap with Trey. I honestly can't remember half these characters' names, but I remember watching it at the cinema.
Quickly, that's why.
I remember being like, oh shit, he's got all the chains on him, and like when he like kicks the chains off and everything, I was like, ooh, that would hurt. But I don't remember being too like disturbed or anything by like the specific one around his jaw. I remember just being like, oh yeah, that would suck. But then rewatching it, I was like, what the fuck? How do you do that? Like you're gonna pull your whole fucking skull off.
You gotta pull your jaw off. Yeah, that's another point. They're talking about the fact that the door was fused shut or whatever it was. Like he would, even if he got it off, he wouldn't have been able to get out anyway.
He wouldn't be able to get out.
I'm pretty sure even if he pulled his jaw off, he probably would have bled to death and died pretty quickly. But who knows?
I'm on the Saw Films fandom page, and I just had the traps going as we're talking. And so actually on that trap, it says, in one of the early scripts, Troy would have been suspended from the ceiling by his chains. However, this was changed as it wouldn't have been possible for him to rip them out in this position. And then it actually says, in another version of the script, several hooks pierced Troy's eyelids, teeth, and fingernails.
What the fuck? I know we're talking about torture porn in general, but sometimes I do think, who the fuck comes up with these concepts? Like, I will watch it. I'll watch it 100%, but who comes up with these?
Who put you up to this? Was it her?
All right, wait a minute. I think you've got it backwards.
My George isn't clever enough to hatch a scheme like this.
You got that right.
The two traps I didn't like in that film would have been the freezer room. I just sort of didn't really think that was in the realm of blood and gore. Like, it is bad what's happening. It just sort of feels a bit like Titanic. You know, she's freezing to death.
Just made me want to put a cardigan on.
So cold. So very, very cold.
Yeah, and then the pig one where he's just like chained to the bottom of a whatever barrel or whatever, and then just pig juice comes in.
I actually don't mind that one. I reckon that one was like pretty filthy.
It's not like there's nothing in there. It's like it's drowning.
It's like, it's like yuck. That would be disgusting.
Like, it is disgusting watching the pigs get churned and then they're, and he's drowning. But I'm like,
I'd also like to know, particularly with that one, why does it? Is there water in there or something? Like they just the pigs just turn to this perfect liquid in that
juice. Yeah,
they used a NutriBullet.
Yeah, it wasn't chunky enough for me. That was the problem.
I really despise the stupid freezer room scene because I mentioned before there was no connection to the actual murder of the child. Like the whole thing was, oh, she was a witness, but she never turned up to court, and it's like, what the fuck's that got to do with freezing? Like, even if there was something to be like, she froze the case, or the whole world turned cold because of this woman. Like, it was just so fucking stupid.
The trivia on that does say that it was going to be a male police officer, but they decided against it, instead going with the idea of a female witness. Instead of being completely naked, she was apparently going to wear a T-shirt and knickers. However, as the water would make the shirt stick to her body, the creators deemed it too sexual and decided to put her in the freezer naked instead.
What the fuck?
Her nipples would be on point. So.
You know what? I bet that's also a thing from the ratings board in America that probably been like, no, we don't T-shirt too see-through, so just have it naked instead. It's fine. But then
those ratings people just walk around with boners all day. I swear to fucking God. Hey, like, nah, too sexual. Yeah. What? It's there's nothing sexual about it. Nah, too sexual. It's turning me on. No, that's not the point.
It'll be interesting to see if there's no real ever sort of thing saying other scenes were ever filmed, but I wonder if they did sort of do these scenes anyway, thinking MPAA would have knocked it back and sort of went, oh, well, we've got another version now. Have this one. Yeah. I wonder how that does work with the rating side of it. If they have to go to them first, but they're probably better off filming alternative scenes and sort of going that way with it and then just resubmitting it with a different scene.
One thing that's always bothered me is I still don't understand how the hell you're supposed to win the trap where the guy gets his arms and legs twisted. That whole thing's kind of like, like I'll look at it through my fingers and whatnot, but like he pulls the key and like the gun shoots him anyway. I couldn't figure it out. Even like rewatching it, I was like, there's got to be some other trivia or some other thing about it. But
from what I understood, I mean, because like technically he did it without getting shot. It's just the other guy was standing in the way.
Out of the way, Bert Ernie.
So like he pulls the cord. He's still got the same tension on the cord, so it doesn't go off. He takes the key off the string. So it's only because he lets go of the string that the gun actually goes off, because he's still holding it at the same point. So had that the judge that was covered in pig juice, had he not been standing in the way, he could have just like let that off and it would fire at the wall or whatever. And then bingo bango, he can let this guy out of the rack of the twisty machine. That has nothing to do with running a kid over, I don't think. So
I do see this as like studio interference. It felt like when the brothers were like, oh yeah, we have more twists for the storyline. They're like, great, put it in the trap. Like, you know, there was just nothing needed for that one. It could have been something a bit more simple, but I understand they do have to try and up the shock factor, up the ante. I just wish they applied it to the storyline as well, because I didn't care for it. I forgot about it until I rewatched it, but it's like, oh, okay, Amanda's gone off the rails, but she's obsessed with trying to be John Kramer, but blames him for her PTSD. But then John's a weirdo and has like 3 other games happening concurrently, which we find out in Saw 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever.
Yeah.
But just I didn't care for it. And then at the end, everyone died. Lynn gets the collar blown up. What was the point?
They just and like from this point, the storyline's sort of just pumping on storylines and talking about the fact of upping the ante. I mean, you've got the rack in Saw 3. There's 7 of these movies. You've got that in number 3. That's the problem with, like, you don't really leave yourself much room when you're just upping the ante on gore. And especially when you've got to try and, we need to put a twist in the end. What's this big twist that we can do? What's this big twist that we can do? And then all of a sudden, what would normally bring you joy, hearing the music Hello Zepp by Charlie Clouser, is all of a sudden like, oh God, what a shit reveal. Like, I just don't care. Like, unfortunately, it's probably because I watched all these movies again, all in the last week, but I'm just like, oh my God, I almost want to watch a Saw movie without one of those in it, because it's almost insulting to my intelligence at this point. It's just like, oh, yep, of course. Yeah, because you rewrote that and then you added that into that. And then you just keep fobbing ideas off the previous movie to sort of hold it up and be like, oh, well, that was the plan all along. That was the plan all along. Was the later ones in these movies, I feel.
How do you guys feel about coming from Saw 6 with the reveal that Hoffman's saying to kill Lynn at the end of Saw 3, but when you're watching Saw 3, you don't really understand why she shoots her to start with. But I mean, what do you guys think of that, finding that out? Do you think that was a good backstory?
Nope.
I mean, they did leave it open, because I think from like 5, 6, and 7, there was some different people involved writing and directing, I think. But they left that open in Saw 3 of like, what was the letter? It was John that told Amanda to read the letter. But I think in the flashback in number 6, maybe Hoffman switches the letters or something.
He puts it in a drawer and she picks it up and it's like, I know what you did or something.
Bobby, I told you. I still know what you did last Halloween. Who is this?
Killed in, or John will find out or something.
Apparently Mark Hoffman was just fly on the wall. He was just there. When John Lennon got shot, he was there. When JFK got shot, he was there. He's just always there in the background, ready to be involved in the story. Fuck Mark Hoffman. I'm sorry. That's gonna be a theme as we go through.
You. You're cool. You. I'm out.
2, 3, 4, and I think a Spiral were directed by Darren Lynn Boseman. I think his name is.
Oh yeah.
Just for reference. And then 5 was David Hackle. I had it somewhere. And 6 was Kevin
Rutter.
Rudolph?
Those are Z's.
They look like ours to me.
That's not fair. Rizzuto is not a word. He's a baseball player. You're cheating.
Would you like to try the word buzz?
Yeah, and he was an editor. I think Kevin Grutter.
I think the Hoffmans and the Bousmans have been involved throughout all of it, or at least their company that has produced it.
Hoffman, someone, and someone. Yeah.
Hoffman, Cools, and Berg.
Yeah.
And
You see from the
Bauman's been
start.
on as director a few times, and I think maybe he's writer too.
And that Hoffman producer actually died, I think, in 2005 or 2006, but his name's still on.
quite a while ago, but they still honor him with the company. My favorite reoccurring sort of person in the Saw series is Charlie Clouser. I don't think he gets enough credit. The music in Saw is very good.
How good is the score? I listened to that. It's good.
I got some trivia for you guys. Charlie Clouser has worked with quite a lot of metal bands and stuff. So he's worked with 9 Inch Nails. He's worked with Korn in the 90s, both, I think, as a performer as well as a producer as well. Yeah, White Zombie, Rammstein, Helmet.
Nice.
So, yeah, no, he's a cool motherfucker, that man. Props to Charlie.
I do like that they've kept that throughout the whole series. I'm surprised
it wouldn't be the same without that. It's a big part.
I'm related that the Halo series got rid of Martin O'Donnell. I think it was after Reach in a different 343 Industries produced Halo 4 onwards. They got new composers in, and it's never really been the same. And I never understood why that is, but I think he's because he's with Bungie. But I'm surprised Charlie Clouser survived given the array of films that happened.
Like, I don't know if you, and we're getting off topic here, but fuck it, our listeners can't deal with it. I don't know if you, if either of you watch much professional wrestling, or like particularly WWF or WWE. Back in the day, from I think about the mid 80s up until about 2017, one man, Jim Johnston is the guy's name, wrote all the entrance themes and all the music in WWF. And yeah, since then, since he's been gone, is that Avril Lavigne, that song? Since you've been gone, it's been not good. It's not the same anymore. Since you've been gone.
Yeah, it's just missing something.
Exactly. Yeah, music's such a big part of both, as much for horror movies as for professional wrestling and for games as well. So huge part.
Do we think that it ended what could have been like a great finish note for the franchise, say if there was no Saw 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 5, 6, 7, 8, 5 steps?
I think it could have, because I thought it was always sort of just preempted as a trilogy anyway. I feel like that's what they were pushing. It's a hard one to say because you sort of look at the other ones and I'm sort of like yes and no in some aspects with some of the other films with what they revealed, i.e. number 6 showing like Amanda with the note, sort of goes back to number 3, but then there's just other backstories that don't make sense. And like Coop said, it was just filling in space or filling in a backstory of something that wasn't really needed.
I mean, they did have the scene of, although they didn't show him eating it in Saw 3, but they did have him pouring the candle wax on the cassette tape that ends up being in his autopsy in number 4. And it's sort of the premise for that movie. But I'm trying to think if there's sort of anything else. Do you think at that point they'd planned out, Saw 4, 5, and 6? Because I don't think they had. I think they might have maybe thought a bit ahead for Saw 4 because they're with the tape.
Sadly, I just think
it's hard
at the
to tell.
I think at the end of number 3, it was really just money over anything else. Saw 2 and Saw 3 made pretty much the same money against each other at the box office. And they probably saw an opportunity. But yeah, I think money just spoke more than actual people wanting another one. Because you remember like them coming out and you'd be like, there's a Saw 5 and someone's like, oh, another one? You're like, yeah.
Yeah. It got to the point where it's, it's another year, another Saw movie.
Yeah, it's always that tagline. It's like, if it's Halloween, it's Saw or something. I think they used to
They'd always try and bring it out around that. Yeah.
But it's interesting because I guess like one of the stories, obviously in Saw 3D, spoilers, is the whole thing with Jill Tuck when she gets the box, the chest from John, and there's a tape or there's that parcel and she drops it off at the hospital and it's the video for Dr. Gordon.
Yeah.
And then you sort of go
Thanks, BP and Coop, for joining me today. In our next episode of the Saw miniseries, we discuss Saw 4 and how the franchise took a turn for the absolute worst. Feel free to throw us a like, comment, share, or a tip.
Throw me a frickin' bone here.
If you loved our podcast, thank you for tuning in. And if you hated it, no, you didn't. Bye.
Lock it, lock it, lock it, lock it, lock it, lock it. Unlock it, lock it, lock it, lock it, lock it.